Survivor Specialist Phil and Will are back. Another episode of Survivor Kaoh Rong down. Another episode where Ty somehow manages to survive. I hope the guy wins at this point. I'm saying that at the beginning of this podcast because that's all I could think the entire time that Jason marched out of Tribal Council. I hope Ty wins at this point because the fact that he made it last week and this week blows my mind. But I guess that's for a later date. Jason's gone. Bye, Jason. We knew you pretty well. Good episode from Jason tonight, but of course it's his boot episode.
Yeah, and the problem with Ty here is he survived both times, not really by doing – I mean, he didn't do anything. Like last week, he even asked Aubrey what he should do. Should he play the idol or not? She says no, and he doesn't need to play it. He holds on to it. Kind of nice that he has an alliance member in Aubrey to tell him that. And then this week, he uses his double vote on – for someone who no one else votes for, and they're completely wasted, but he stays in the game anyway, even though it would have been a perfect opportunity to take Ty out. I mean, this would have been perfect. Now
this might have been a better opportunity than last week because this week you don't even need to involve Jason in the plan. Joe, Michelle, Sydney, and Aubrey, all they have to do is vote for Ty. They don't even have to tell Jason, and Ty can use his 2 extra stupid votes, and it doesn't do anything. Ty would have had no idea that they were going to vote him out. Had no idea.
Exactly, and that's why I'm so surprised Michelle and Sydney, when they were talking with Aubrey, they were saying, we need to stick to the plan. Let's get Jason. Let's get Jason. Why don't you say, hey, let's get Ty. He's the one that keeps throwing names under the bus. He's flipped however many times. He has all these advantages. You know what the extra vote is now. You know what the extra vote is. You know exactly when he's going to use it. You know who he's going to vote for. You have all the information. Ty has just played – honestly, not that great, giving you all the cards to play with, and you fold. And you say, you know what, let's just stick with Jason.
Yeah.
I still think Ty doesn't win. I'm still thinking Aubrey gets it. That crying was lame. Who cries for something like that? I mean, I know it's stressful, and they're on day 30, whatever, but get it together. That was not that, I don't think, hard of a vote, especially because Ty – I mean, he even kind of said it when he made that alliance. This alliance was never really that tight. And I don't think Michelle should be that upset that Ty says she's number 5 or whatever. I mean, it came together just because they wanted to get Scott and Jason out. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know why she cried.
Yeah. I don't get that either. It was a big letdown because, when you put that in the preview, you hope it's for something more. It doesn't look like anybody's going to get medevac next week either. So I'm really hoping that there just is no third medevac. I hope that was just misinformation and that it was somebody like Liz or Peter or something like that was just talked about by Burnett, or maybe a cameraman got medevac or something. Who knows? I just hope at this point we don't lose anybody else from the show because then it's going to happen in the finale and that's going to suck. But this Ty thing just baffles me. I don't know if Aubrey was just shooting it down every time Michelle and Sydney brought it up. I don't get it. The only reason I don't think Ty's played a good game at all. The only reason I'm saying I hope he wins is just because why have you guys not gotten rid of this guy yet? He has the advantage. He has the idol. He has the idol, and he told you straight up that it was an extra vote. And an extra vote has never been – they've never seen an extra vote before. So it's not like it's something that he's just going to say out of nowhere. Like, they're going to believe that. So, if you know it's an extra vote and you know he has the idol, just get the 4 of you to vote him out without him ever knowing. And now he's sitting guaranteed in the Final 4. Guaranteed. And looks like what's going to happen next week, him and Michelle look like they can dictate who goes home because Ty can give his idol to either Michelle or himself and get rid of one of the others. And they deserve it at this point.
That would be interesting, though, if it came down like a 50-50. We're going to play our votes on someone. You have to guess right with the idol. That at least would be very exciting. But I completely agree with you. I don't know. I mean, Aubrey, I've really liked her game. I think it's been really strong. I think she does a good job at kind of being the leader of her alliance without being too aggressive, too upfront, too much in the action. She kind of talks to people really reasonably and says, this is what we need to do. I don't know what she sees in Ty. I don't at all. I still think she ends up winning and we're like, whatever, she won. But it kind of baffles me where, I mean, I get that he's a vote, but he's not a loyal vote. He wants to win this game too. So he's not someone you can control like Joe. So yeah, really and the fact that it didn't even come up, that's another thing. it was going to be Michelle or Jason, and it really didn't seem. I did not think going into Tribal. I thought it was going to be Jason, just because they spent all this time on Michelle. I got those vibes. What were you thinking headed in? I know this is kind of a weekly thing we do now, where we say if the vote surprised us or not.
Well, it didn't so much surprise me because of how hard Michelle played at Tribal, and it made sense that if all of them could just vote out Jason and Ty could use his extra vote and it didn't matter, and Sydney wanted to get Jason out, I get that. But what makes no sense to me in this situation is, like you said, Ty doesn't even get brought up here. His name, everybody has said he's going to be hard to beat at the end. Everybody thinks Jason's going to be easy to beat at the end. So why not just bring Jason to the end, or at least bring him around another week? He doesn't have an idol. He doesn't have anybody close to him. Ty has an idol, and he's really likable and can get people close to him. I don't get this. I did think it was going to be Michelle, but, like, man, once the Tribal started, I'm like, Michelle is swinging like crazy here. The girls are going to end up voting out Jason. Jason was sitting there quiet, and I'm like, they're going to end up voting him out anyway. And Michelle's just kind of putting on a show almost to make sure.
Yeah, it was almost – she was trying to stir up any confusion where people are like, okay, we have to take the safe route. We have to go Jason because Ty has this advantage. We don't know really what he's doing. We think it's going to Michelle. He's talking more kindly at Tribal. And then you have Michelle saying she doesn't trust Ty and all this stuff. So, I mean, if that was Michelle's goal, then good for her. I did really, really like both challenges tonight. I thought they were both really great. So, in kind of a lame strategy episode, at least we got that.
Yeah, and I thought this was finally a really cool reward too, with especially like with Ty, Jason, and Michelle getting to go. I thought that was pretty cool. Like Michelle was spot on, I think, playing up the softer side by Jason, but I think Jason meant most of that. He meant like 90%. He was just playing up some of it probably for them. But I do think that he meant most of that. That was a really cool reward. That challenge, it just sucked that Joe, whoever got stuck with Joe, is probably going to lose that challenge. That's just how it was going to be.
Yeah, it's very true. And it was a random draw, right? They didn't get to pick because I would have loved to see Ty and Jason not on the same team, because then either way, whether Jason wins or Jason lose, he's with two people that he can say, look, Ty's a huge threat and get in there here, especially if it's on reward with food and people have good thoughts and good emotions coming out. People are more open to say, yeah, Kyle or Jason, you like monkeys and stuff. Maybe you're not so bad of a guy. So that prospect went away when Ty's on the same team. That's kind of a bummer. But I guess maybe this is the point where Jeff is saying he lost brain cells, because he's looking at Jason, who's like this villain that Jeff probably loves. He's an entertaining guy. You can tell that from Tribal. You don't need to have seen edited footage of the show to know that Jason's a winner for production. And then for just nothing really to happen, just for him to go home on a lame vote. And the advantage, which didn't work the first time I tried for the advantage, to not work again. He's like, ugh, kind of just, man, this episode still could be an exciting finish, but I enjoyed the episode throughout. It just was a lame vote.
Yeah, it was. It was a bad vote. And I think what ended up happening, too, is because Michelle and Jason went with Ty, Michelle had to play up like she was aligned with all of them more than anything. And that's why her and Jason couldn't really put a plan into motion and try to pull over Aubrey and Sydney or something like that, because it seemed like they just had to be at each other. They had to act like they were at each other's throats. And I like that Jason just threw a vote at Joe because he probably knew he was going home and said, screw this guy. This guy doesn't deserve to be here anymore. But, yeah, I mean, it sucks that Michelle and Jason couldn't actually get something working together to get Ty out. Reward, though, I thought it was cool. I thought that challenge was cool. Like I said, it just sucked that it was Joe. The immunity challenge, though, I mean, because there's really not even that much to talk to at Camp Life. Joe got a bunch of negative screen time after this immunity, or after the reward. He looked like he was pissing Sydney off, but it also seemed like Sydney was kind of overreacting a bit, like for no reason. And then they showed the reward, which was a cool reward. And then we went right to the immunity challenge, and the immunity challenge was cool. And it sucks for Jason. All he had to do is take 2 more steps and not spill his damn stack of blocks.
Yeah, I was really hoping that he would win immunity. That's way more interesting. And yeah, there isn't that much to break down here. I guess there are a few funny moments. the way Ty jumps into the water during the reward challenge, did you notice that? It seemed he cannot dive at all. And then I think the way that Kyle conducted that whole circle maze was awesome. Like he was staying on one side, then telling Michelle and Ty to split around it so it stays even and all. I mean, that was such a cool challenge. So I'm a fan there, but you're right. I don't really know what you want to get into. Not obviously, we're not going to go straight to comments. What do you think is the reason Sydney was so gung ho about getting Jason out when pretty much it's been said a bajillion times that he's the most beatable player remaining? Maybe he can beat Joe.
I think she was just tired of him. Like, I think that she was tired of the way he was at the beginning, and I think that she wanted to get him out before – honestly, I think it was more of a vendetta than anything. And who knows? She might have brought up Ty's name and said, we need to get Ty out. She might have done that, but they just didn't show it because it was never going to happen. So who knows? But I think it was personal with Sydney here, which is another dumb friggin' move because you can't take things personally in this game. You're never going to win that way. When you do it because of personal issues instead of strategic issues, you don't win the game. It just doesn't happen.
Right. And maybe in like early tribe life when you can vote someone out, if you have the numbers, they're getting on your nerves, they're kind of wrecking your chemistry. But we're down to final 6 here. Boiling up for Brawn. And Sydney was the one that flipped on Jason to begin with. I mean, Jason hasn't done wrong Sydney. I mean, he's probably said some things, but over the course of 30 days, that's going to happen. I'm with you. Like, you don't make a decision based on who you like and who's getting on your nerves when you're past day 30 and in the final 6.
Yeah, because today she got rid of somebody she didn't like as opposed to getting rid of somebody she does like who has an idol and who would win against her in the final 3.
Exactly.
That's what she did. And it makes no sense because you had a perfect opportunity to get rid of them. I'm going to be honest here. I would love to see Kyle play again. I don't think his name's being brought up for season 34, but I would love to see Kyle play again. I want to see him play without Scott Pollard because I think Kyle is an incredibly likable guy. Seriously, could win this game because I think he can turn it on and turn it off like nobody's business. And I think that showed tonight when they went to the reward challenge. The guy has a heart, and I think that it would be interesting to see him play again surrounded by other people who have played before, and you kind of know where everybody stands. He's not going to come out and play like Russell Haynes. He's just not going to do it. He has more than one gear, and I really wish that they would put it on the show, although I don't think they're going.
Well, you know, I want him to come back, but I think it might be a good thing for Kyle if he's not being mentioned in the list of 34 names, just because when you're that fresh in people's minds, like they just saw your season, they just saw you, hide the machete, pour water on the fire, be a bully in certain ways, and still be pretty strategic and get yourself to final 6 despite not having many allies. When people see that and then go play a season, you're just fresh. You're top of mind, So if he's not on 34 and he comes back for – we had someone in the comments mention season 36. So, I mean, if the people are talking 36 or Heroes vs. Villains 2 and he's on a tribe of all villains and it's been a few seasons after Kaoh Rong, I think he does much better in a season like that. And I'd like to see him in that context.
Because I'm going to be honest. I think he's a bit Boston Robbie. Boston Rob's the better looking, more suave version who can, talk you under the table. But Boston Rob in Marquesas was a huge asshole. He was a huge asshole. He wasn't pouring water on the fire or anything like that, but he was making homophobic comments. He was making comments about the general. And if you guys go back and rewatch when he breaks down the entire tribe, I mean, come on. He's a huge asshole, but he was great TV. Jason is also an ass in this season, but I think that he can turn it on and turn it off, almost like Boston Rob could. I'm not saying he would do it as well, but I think he's a multidimensional player.
Yeah, I see that. And I like how you keep saying like more than one gear, which is really the fault of Russell. He has this just strategy, do whatever it takes to get to the next vote, all this stuff. It doesn't have that gear that you need jury votes. So you need to be able to persuade people to give you money at the end and all that stuff. So that's people comparing Russell coming in, and after seeing his arc and seeing his story, that is clearly the difference between the two characters. Anything else here on this episode?
I mean, just talking about that immunity challenge, I like that one where Sydney didn't drop once, and they still all almost beat her on a second. Like, they all were coming back on her like a second time. Jason still almost beat her. Spell was hilarious. I think Joe's just completely lost his mind at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But we got to see a little bit of Joe tonight, which was cool because, you're at Final Six. You want to see a little bit of everybody at this point. But he's just done. He's just so mentally and physically done. I feel for the guy a little bit. I really do. But he's Final Five.
That's right. For sure. So do we jump right into comments? This seems like a very short episode recap. And I know sometimes we go through point by point or scene by scene. I guess we can talk about Mark the Chicken. They got Mark the Chicken right in there. I guess you can, do you like this? Because I'm a fan. Like, social media can drive me nuts. It can be the most annoying, frustrating thing like ever. It really can be painful. But when you get on board, and everyone can get on board with Mark the Chicken and have a laugh, and Survivor uses it as a hashtag immediately to just, I don't know. This is where I'm completely okay with it. And I also noticed it looked like Mark the Chicken wasn't even on a leash anymore or tied down. He was free roaming and just hanging out with them.
I don't think he's tied. Yeah, I think that Ty seriously trained him as like a dog. Like, this thing's just not going to leave their side. He's just hanging out. They feed him. He comes around. I like it. I mean, it reminds me of old school stuff, like where they're actually taking the time to show personalities of people interacting with a damn chicken. That doesn't happen in new school anymore. They're so worried about strategy. And you know what? If this is the season that makes Jeff lose brain cells because he doesn't think there's enough strategy, I'll take a season like this any day over a season like Worlds Apart that didn't make him lose brain cells. You know what I mean? Because you didn't get to know the people there. You're getting to know the people here. You know more about them than you did in any of the other seasons. Like, tonight, Michelle, who most people have been saying is like the most boring one out there, other than Joe, she was phenomenal at Tribal Council tonight. She was out of control at Tribal Council tonight. Like, but they've built her up enough as a player that it's satisfying. You sit there and you're like, wow, she could really persuade a jury if she's sitting there at the end, and she could win the damn thing. And that doesn't always happen this late in the game.
Yeah, Michelle has actually been really good at tribals just throughout this season. She doesn't have the most pizzazz when speaking in confessionals or in other conversations. She kind of just rolls it off her tongue, doesn't have those quick one-liners like Aubrey or Jason. But when it comes to tribal council and she's battling out there, she puts up a great fight. And just one more thing on Mark the Chicken. I loved how Kyle said, even I won't eat Mark the Chicken. Like, you would think that a bounty hunter, it's like, no, I mean, big boy's got to eat. But he's like, oh, it's been days since I've even considered it. I mean, that's pretty special, I think, and it hasn't happened.
Yeah, I'm a fan of it. I love it. I think that's great. So we got our little mascot for the season. All right.
Cool. How about we do before? I guess we can just quickly, before we get into comments, just touch on the winner in the edit. I mean, we talk about winner all the time, and I know editing isn't always the most interesting thing to talk about, but it's 5 people left. Things definitely kind of shifted tonight. Aubrey took a little bit of a back seat. She was still pretty prominent. I think Sydney went way, way down. And so I still, I have Aubrey number 1 and then Michelle now number 2.
Yeah, I thought Michelle was great tonight. Building her up the last 3 weeks. I think she's been phenomenal last 3 weeks. And Aubrey tonight, I mean, they did show her cry, which is always like one of like their rules. They got to show the person who wins cry. But I mean, I'm telling you, Michelle gets to sit there in a final tribal council. She looks like she can talk her way out of anything. She was so good tonight. And it seems like putting on a show for the jury already, saying, look, I'm fighting for this because Ty is full of shit. And look at me, I deserve to win, and I deserve to be here, and I think she's playing it hard. And if she gets to sit there at the end with somebody like Ty, she can say, look, I played a better game than Ty straight up. I didn't have the advantage. I didn't have the idol. I didn't really have a strong alliance ever. I didn't have to watch over me the entire time. And I didn't have to betray like crazy like he did. And I think she can win that straight up. So I think Michelle and Aubrey are really way closer than they were coming into this week.
Yeah, I agree. You can really see Michelle as a viable winner. And a lot of people will, if she does win, or even discussing this, like what has been her move, what has been her strategy, what has she done? And she hasn't really made any big moves, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Every time you don't make a big move, you're making a move by making a non-move. And that's a lot of moves and non-moves. But if if you're at Tribal and you have a decision to vote one way or another and you don't make the flashy big move that will shock TV fans and make you a fan favorite, but that gets you farther in the game, then that's equally as impressive and equally valid to get yourself the W and the $1 million. So I can see Michelle winning completely.
Do you think Danny or Sophie? Yeah, do you think Danny, Boatwright, or Sophie give a crap that they didn't make any big moves and nobody can remember anything they did in the game? They're millionaires. And I think that's what Michelle's playing. You have to play to your season. You can't go out there and play like a crazy person just to play like a crazy person. They should have voted out Ty tonight. They should. But you know what? Michelle advances. It looks like she still has her alliance, and now it looks like she can run over to Ty because nobody voted with Ty. And Ty might feel a little betrayed by them. So if you're Michelle, you don't have to make a huge move here. You don't have to do anything crazy. Tonight was the time for Aubrey and Sydney to say, let's get rid of Ty now. We can beat Jason at the end. The worst thing that happens is he gets to the final three and he sits next to the two of us and we win. So whatever. I think that, you have to play to your season and do what's best for you. And it doesn't matter if you have to make any big moves the entire time. The most dominating game of all time was Boston Rob's or Redemption Island. He didn't make a single big move the entire game except when he got voted out Mad Elrod. It's the only time that it was a big move. Other than that, he just controlled everybody. And Michelle's not completely in control, but she has her finger on the pulse enough that she's still sitting there and seriously has a great argument to win the game.
Yeah, and she's done a great job when she hasn't been included in the vote. She went on that reward with Sydney and Aubrey and really got back in the good graces, and she didn't kind of get grouped in with Julia and Jason on the bottom. She really has played. Maybe she's with Julia. She's open to working with others, but she's still in the alliance. She's been loyal. Like, she's kind of been that perfect alliance member. And without drawing attention and not being threatening. And I've said this before, when I go out to Survivor, if that ever happens, I'm going to do everything just to not be threatening. And that's all what my strategy would be. So go, Michelle.
Yeah. And I thought Michelle had a fantastic line tonight. She said, what better way to prove that you're loyal than to vote out your closest ally? And I thought that was a fantastic line because that's how she's playing this game. She is staying loyal to those who are in power. And it might look like she's getting on the bottom, but every time she's been at the bottom, she's found a way to scrounge by. And she's doing it because nobody's scared to align with her because they don't think that she'll flip on them.
Right. And I did catch that line. I wish you would have phrased it just a tad better. The best way to prove you're loyal to your alliance is to vote out your number one ally, I guess, would have been better, because saying voting out your number one ally is like the opposite of being loyal. But
that's why it was funny. It was ironic.
I know it's funny, but I don't know. But the way she said it, I don't know if she knew she was being funny and ironic and that. It's like she just said it, and it kind of it's true. Like if you're in an alliance and someone who you're really tight with, like Julia isn't, that's a great way to prove loyalty. It absolutely is. MVP.
I think Michelle's MVP.
Trying to think of anybody else. Can't really give it to Ty. We don't think Aubrey and Sydney. We think they missed an opportunity to get rid of Ty. Can't give it to Joe because he's getting that negative. I mean, that negative edit. That's just people who have been on an island for 30 days not eating and who just lost out on a really, really awesome reward challenge. That's what that was. And then you can't give it to Kyle. So I guess I go with Michelle. We'll put the poll up. I don't think we put the poll up last week because it was just we decided it. But the polls are fun, so I'll get the poll up there and people can vote. I don't know how many people even really watch this podcast because the episode was so, I don't know, not that it was uninteresting, but like we're saying, there isn't that much to break down. So LVP.
There's been so many fireworks the last couple weeks. This week there's just none. Exactly.
LVP.
All right, let's get into comments so that we can rip through these. Oh, LVP? LVP. No, he's still in the game. I think it's Ty. He wasted his advantage, and nobody voted with him.
Sure. Or Joe, because that awful immunity challenge, and he's barking orders, I guess.
Yeah, I still think it's Ty. He wasted an advantage. Joe didn't lose any positioning in the game. Ty did, or could have. Joe didn't hurt himself. Ty
did. But he kind of had to play it. Like, not that he had to, but it's like if you don't use one of those, and it's like you have the idol next week that you're for sure playing at Final Five, so you're not even going to really need the extra vote. I mean, it could come handy, but just misplaying this, I don't think is. If he didn't get to have the advantage in the first place, we wouldn't give him LVP. That's what I'm saying. Like, at least he tried.
True, but I'm looking at it more as Joe still voted with the majority. Ty did not. Ty's whole alliance did not vote with him tonight. Ty's whole alliance was annoyed with him for trying to bark out orders. Joe's whole alliance was annoyed with him for trying to bark out orders, but they also voted with Joe. Nobody voted with Ty.
Right. Well, we'll let the people vote.
Yeah. All right, man. Let's go to comments because why not? Let's go to comments. Rick Winterfell, this is actually from before the episode. Pretty sure the most likely to be medevac comment about Joe is irony. Liz says it to Neil. It's interesting. So maybe we won't get a third medevac. Hopefully we don't get a third medevac.
I hope not.
Rick Winterfell, there's so many good players from 28 and 32 who want to come back to do a battle of the seasons. Or if 3, what other? For example, 8 of the 10, Sydney, Ali, Ty, Kyle, Aubrey, Anna, Darnell, Caleb, Neil, Debbie versus Bryce, Trish, LJ, Tony, Alexis, Tasha, Cliff, Sarah. So I guess this is something that's been going on social media. They've talked about it. I mean, Battle of the Seasons is kind of selling out because then you're just taking from 2 seasons. And I don't like that. But, I mean, if you're going to do it from 2 seasons, there's no 2 better – like that's 2 really good seasons to do it from. But it is selling out.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I don't want to see that at all in any way. But if you pick 2 seasons that have the same theme, like I don't want to see the 2 Blood versus Waters. I don't want to see the 2 fans versus favorites. I would pick this theme.
You know what I'd like to see I'd like to see the 2 favorites tribes go against each other. Back out there, get Mikey B.
You mean the fans?
The fans, that's what I meant. That's what I meant. Get all the really boring chicks from the Caramoan season.
Well, maybe they could honestly, that wouldn't surprise me if they had an awesome season because we didn't even get to see them play the first time. Like those are characters we really don't know.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, if you think about that whole Caramoan, everybody who went out from Corinne and earlier, you can name 2 of them. And it's on accident. Like Shamar, just because he came into my head, and I think Julia because there was a Julia on this season that got brought up. Well, what are the other 2 chicks' names? I don't know. I don't remember. But
there's a Laura.
I think that would actually be a pretty interesting season. There was a Laura. She sucked at challenges. Horrible at them.
Mm-hmm.
Bad. Oof, man, that was horribly edited. All right. Anyway, that would be funny though. Mel, who's going to get more screen time tonight, Joe or Mark? I think Joe actually found the chick in screen time. I think it finally.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Finally, and then Mel says bad edit for Joe. This was during the episode, so either he's medevac as predicted, or he's being set up to be voted out medevac next week. I'd say. Do you think that there's any chance Joe goes next week?
If he gets medevaced, I don't know.
But do you think do you think there's any way Joe gets voted out next week?
I really don't. I think Ty is on the block. Sydney might be there. I don't know. It's really looking like Aubrey might just waltz her way to the finish with this one.
If Michelle and Ty, though, were to team up and they do the idol thing, who do they target? You think they target Sydney or Aubrey? Because they're not targeting Joe.
And that's why I think Aubrey wins, because they would target Aubrey, and then I think Ty or Michelle would go home there.
Okay.
Because this is it.
Okay.
I mean, if Aubrey gets voted out before the finale, nothing makes sense. Because then you have Ty, Michelle, Joe, and Sydney. I feel like you need Aubrey in this finale just because of how heavy of a edit and just the character and how much she's been narrating and telling this story. To have her in the final chapter would seem very odd.
I wouldn't be shocked if Sydney goes next week. And you're looking at, because Michelle's had a big storyline, Ty's had a big storyline, Aubrey's had a big storyline, and I just find it weird if Joe goes next week. Because it would make sense to target him because he's no threat to win the game. So I wouldn't be surprised if Sydney goes next week, and that's why her edit's kind of been uneven as opposed to everybody else's left in the game. Is whether it's been awful like Joe's or great like the other 3's, they've been edited consistently. Sydney hasn't. I
agree. And we also, we're going to save this for Sunday, but maybe not. Sunday's Mother's Day. Maybe we just do predictions now. Ty still has that idol, and maybe he does the cocky move, just not playing it because he thinks he's safe, just for no reason, absolutely no reason. And then that setup that's been going on since he found the idol finally gets paid off. Ty goes home.
Very true. Very possible. Mel, man, this tribal could go so many ways, so crazy. And then instantly after that, dang, I was really hoping Jason wouldn't go home already. Looks like Ty's definitely going to need his idol in the future. It would have going into this tribal if Ty's name had came up. Because between Michelle and Jason, it was like, this doesn't change the game no matter who goes home. But Kyle, if it was between like Kyle and Ty or Michelle and Ty or even Michelle, Kyle and Ty, then you're looking at something where it could be really interesting.
You look back at the most exciting tribal councils over the course of Survivor, it is often when there are like multiple people or 3 or more people who can go home. And I'm looking right at the Philippines Jeff Kent boot episode. That is still, I think, my favorite tribal.
Yeah, I agree. And then you jump to the Cagayan one where you didn't know who was actually going to get the votes, and a bunch of people were playing their damn idols, and then Sarah goes home. But like nobody knew. I mean, I think that's another thing too. It has to be that the people don't know what two it's between. As long as the players think it's between 3 or 4 people, that's what makes it good. Even if the audience knows it's between 2, if the players think it's between 3 or 4 and coming into play, and people don't know who they're actually going to play for, then we're talking. Tonight it was like, okay, it's between Michelle's point. What's it matter? I think Michelle has more game to play, I think, than Jason did in terms of people will strategize with her, and she might be able to turn it around. Jason would have had to win immunities to get to the end.
Yeah, I don't know, though. We never really talked about this. I think Kyle, his image really was becoming much better and tolerable, and even the people on the island, wasn't just from an edit perspective, but just I think people respected him as a game player who really played this game hard the entire time. And if he had gone to the end, and maybe this is what Sydney was thinking, if he does get to the end, he does have Nick on the jury, Scott on the jury, Julia, who he is close with. So maybe, we're asking, these people are just assuming they can't beat Jason. Maybe they are, or maybe they weren't. Like maybe they're scared of him. I don't know. I
don't know. It's weird because, you would think they'd want to sit next to him at the end, but then they didn't. And that leads into our next.
Yeah, that'll just be interesting to see in exit interviews, just what like Sydney thinks of Jason, of taking him to the finals, or Michelle, or Aubrey, and all that. Like, did you vote him out because you just didn't like him, or was he really a threat?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to hear. But this leads in very hard on Jason and Scott all season. Is Jason like Rob Z from Thailand, where he was a bully most of the time but redeems himself towards the end? And I think Jason completely redeems himself here. I mean, once Scott was gone, Jason wasn't bad. Jason was just playing the game. And it was like when your back's against the wall and you have people that'll heckle with you, you're going to heckle. Once you lose your buddy to heckle with, I mean, what was his move? He didn't have anybody to go around and torch things with, so he just hung out.
Yeah, and I never really thought Jason was all that bad. I didn't
either.
He didn't do anything that crazy, honestly. Like, he hit a machete. We've seen that before. He called Alicia some names. We've seen that a bajillion times before. And when there wasn't social media, people weren't so up on arms about it. I mean, you go back and watch any other seasons, there are people yelling, fighting, making fun of each other behind their backs. There's always drama. That's why it's a TV show. I don't think he was ever that really mean of a character. It's just kind of his persona, and that he was on the bottom, grouped with Scott, that they had to resort, that they really wanted to resort to sabotage and all that. That's where he gets the villain. And of course, if it's a hero's and villain, he's on the villain tribe, but he wasn't like an awful person at all. We've seen a lot worse.
Like I said, he's the Boston Rob villain. The fans, if he played in season 4, fans would have liked him. That's just all I'm saying. Like, people would have ended up liking him because they would have been like, wow, this guy's entertainment. Now it's like, oh, he's the worst person ever. Start screaming safe space, Will. Start screaming safe space.
Yeah, he triggered a lot of people.
It's just he triggered a lot of people. But, it's like he's a likable villain. He's not like Tyson likable, but he started to become Tyson likable, where he's just a smart ass. Tyson wasn't ever going to dump water on a fire, but they were the same way in terms of personality, of just like, yeah, man, I don't like these people. Like, they're the same way.
Good comparison. Both comparisons really on point, Phil. You're on fire tonight. Not talking about your hair.
Thanks, man. Thanks, man. Harold Rice, how does Jason compare to Prince Siska from season 16? That's Jason's nickname from the Evolution. I mean, this Jason's a way better player than that one. That's like Jason Siska is like one of the dumbest players of all time, like ever to ever play, ever in the history.
I don't know about ever in history, but
Ever.
the whole stick thing was very low survivor intelligence.
There's a lot more than just the stick thing. Go back and rewatch the season. Jason Siska.
I mean, for a couple episodes, he was the punching bag of that entire season.
Yeah. I mean, if it wasn't for Eric Regenbach giving up that damn immunity, it'd be like one of the biggest jokes in like Survivor history. Seriously. So dumb. And Curtis, do you think we'll see the extra vote in future seasons? I hope not. I'm already tired of it. It never works. I bet Survivor does it until it works, at least once. They're never going to give up on this until it works, I don't think.
Well, I mean, there's two ways to look at it working. Did it cause excitement and drama? That's one way it can work. Or did it work for the player using it? And I think every time, every time it's been dramatic when it's been played. Even tonight where,
Tonight it was.
but if Michelle goes and that extra vote was like crucial, I mean, it was possible is what I'm saying. You're going in there, it was possible. And then the other two times, I mean, the time Steven used it, I did not really think Steven was going home. That was really, really cool. And then the Dan one we saw coming like 3 episodes away because Jeff talked about how it played out beautifully and we knew Carolyn had the idol. And so that was less dramatic for us. But I think for the average viewer watching that the first time in Worlds Apart, that was exciting. So I think it's, not worked for the players, but it's worked as like a exciting part of the game. And I think they will use it. The question is whether they use the extra vote or the vote steal. I'm kind of still a more fan for just the normal extra vote.
I am too, because I think the vote steal could become too powerful if it starts to work right. And I think that could really hurt it.
Yeah, because people know now not to split the votes when you do it. And just take someone's vote, use both of them on that person, and you'll probably be good to go. And that's really unfair to someone like, Joe obviously stayed in the game in second chance, but that would have been really unfair for Joe. Yeah.
Bollock, I can't believe these people are letting Ty get away with not playing his idol, not even one vote cast his way. That's what I'm saying. We both, it's dumb to let him keep doing this.
I agree. We've talked about that for pretty much the whole podcast. That's just why not vote Ty?
Yeah. Bollock, you guys should do an NBA sports podcast. Cavs balling like in a game of NBA Jam with cheat codes on right now. That's funny. I haven't watched it, but we always like to talk about sports.
Yeah, no, they were awesome today. And the Cavs, I think they tend to be a lot of star power and not a lot of bite, but man, they brought it. And as a Warrior fan, that's like the first time that I am now like a little bit worried about them. I still think the Warriors got it, but if they can play our style of ball and hit threes, they broke a bunch of three-point playoff records. So they're a great team.
Yeah. Bollock again, feeling well. How would you guys rank the last 6 survivors on social perspicacity? Aubrey 1, Michelle 2, ...
Perspicacity? Ugh.
That's why I'm letting you go first.
Is that a made-up word? It sounds like a made-up word.
That's why I'm letting you go first.
Are you Googling it up, right? Are you Googling it up? Perspicacity. Oh, I think it is a word.
Quality of having an insight into things.
I think Aubrey's probably number 1.
I think Michelle's the most insightful socially.
It's not just about being insightful. I think it's being on the pulse of the tribe. I think that's what the question is. Good word there. I love learning new words. So thank you for that. Perspicacity.
New pickup line, dude.
Yeah, hell, we'll use that one. You have Kyle, I think, has a pretty good social radar. And if you're a bounty hunter, you kind of have to because you have no support team behind you. You have no CTU with Chloe O'Brien calling out locations and satellites. You're just on your own. So I think Kyle might be number one, actually. I'm not going to rank all six.
I think Ty would be 6. I mean, I think Ty is very likable, but I don't think he realizes how much people like him, or he's just Ty. He's not worried about it.
I might put. I mean, it's hard to decide between Joe at 5 or maybe even like Sydney, because Sydney, I think she overreacts and kind of gets paranoid a little bit, and maybe that's just because she's on Survivor and people will vote you out. And then Joe is an FBI agent, so he's got to be very perceptive. But he's also old, so probably Joe 5, Sydney 6. I wouldn't rank them all, so I'm not going to finish out the rankings.
All right, Steel Punch. Love when Jeff said Jason dumps during the challenge. Classic moment. Everybody
lots of
that.
Dumps this season.
Really explained his whole game. Lots of dumps this season. Bethany Palmer. Time seems to be getting some hate now. Do you think people now want to face him in final 2 or 3? No, I don't think anybody in the game really wants to sit next to him, because I think he can still win the jury over.
Yeah. I mean, if it was Aubrey Ty, I'd love to see it. Again, I want a final 2 with like 2 viable winners. Hasn't happened in forever.
Hey, I'm going to say this. As long as Joe isn't sitting there, I think you're getting 2 viable winners in the final. I mean, out of the other 4, I think any of them can win.
I guess viable, but someone who actually has a chance with the edit as well. Like Sydney, she's a very viable winner out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, that's good. Then we're sitting pretty.
Yeah. Steel Punch. What would make Scott Pollard more mad? Ty coming to Ponderosa, the 2002 NBA Western Conference Final, Game 6 officiating. Any means that's the most rigged game in sports history.
Yeah, it's the Kings Lakers.
That was actually kicked out of the NBA for gambling on it. The worst officiated thing. Go watch a highlight of it. It's really entertaining. I think that would make Scott Pollard more mad. Let's be honest. I mean, I think him and Ty are going to make amends. Pretty sure Scott Pollard probably wants to still murder that ref.
Yeah, that game is not a good one for the NBA.
Yeah, that did pull off to the NBA in the early 2000s. It's the biggest joke of all time. Steel Punch, Joe for MVP because he got a vote. He's going to win it in the end. Steel Punch is back. Yeah, Joe's the MVP for getting a vote finally. It's crazy, though. Is that the first time Joe got a vote against him, or did he get some pre-merge?
That might be it. And if it's coming from Steel Punch, I expect only the best. So I'm not going to question Steel Punch here. If someone else wants to, feel free.
Yeah. Bethany Palmer, Joe is being set up for a surefire final tribal council loss. Pretty negative edit tonight. I mean, I think whatever happens to him, I don't know if Joe's going to make the final tribal. I don't think he is.
I hope not. I don't want to hear him answer questions. Oh, I really like the island, and it's the fire was fun to build.
God. You make him sound like he's like the worst thing ever. Aaron,
he's up there.
He's not that bad. He's friggin' dead.
He's one of the most boring contestants we have, especially with so much hype. You're an FBI agent. Like, you got to be interesting if you're an FBI agent coming on to Survivor. I mean, he is a complete dud. Even Rick from South Pacific, like, he had that.
Get out of here. He
had that accent. He had a cowboy hat. I mean,
no.
I'd take Rick over Joe like 100 times out of 100.
Okay.
I mean, maybe Joe has more left in him, but it is like barren with Joe. I mean, there's nothing going on. I mean, him misspelling immunity is the most interesting thing he's done all season. It's not saying much.
I don't know. Joe's great.
Discussing the real debates that Survivor fans need to talk about.
Exactly. Aaron Wiener, if Joe makes the final game, we'll still get more screen time than him. I don't know, man. Joe killed it tonight. So much screen time tonight for Joe. He's the new favorite player of every fan on this season now. No doubt in my mind. Right, Will?
Yeah,
right?
I mean, so much screen time compared to like nothing. It's like it's in The Office when Pam was talking about that she doubled her sales, and Andy's like, "What, from 2 to 4?" And she's like, "Yeah, 2 to 4."
Yeah. It's a good comparison, dude. Look at you go. Look at this, huh? Now we're making offense references. Man, look at us. All right, Johnny Burtak, finally. He's alive. He's still here. NHL playoffs are way better than Survivor Kaoh Rong. Probably.
If you're a hockey fan, then yeah. If you're a Survivor fan and not a hockey fan, then absolutely not.
Yeah. Larry Miller,
go Sharks, by the way. Go Sharks. They're up 2-1 against the Predators. Really need to see them get to the Western Conference Finals because it's been a while. So go Sharks.
Larry Miller, do you think Jason was overhated like Dan and Will from Worlds Apart? Also, who was the worst out of those three? Will's the worst out of the three. Jason wasn't even – I don't even think Jason was that hated. I think Jason might be hated by the internet, but everybody's got to remember that's a very, very small group of people, and they're just very vocal because they can put their thoughts anywhere.
I'll probably have an unpopular opinion here because it's different, hated or overhated. I think Will was spot on. I mean, he wasn't overhated. I think that was just normal. That was deserved hated. Not that he needs to be berated and attacked and all that stuff, but like it was kind of deserved. Dan, I think, is the most overhated because I don't think what Dan did was all that bad.
Yeah, his question was who was the worst out of those three?
Oh,
the worst
you said overhated. Okay.
Well, do you think Jason was overhated like Dan and Will from Worlds Apart? That was the first question. And then the next one was also who was the worst out of those three? Will's the worst out of the three. By far.
Yeah, I think Will's worst out of three, but I think Dan was more overhated because I don't think Jason was even that much hated at all. So there you go.
Yeah. Larry Miller, is Ty the Yao Man without much strategy? Yao Man wasn't much of a strategist. He was a fun character. Fiji's underrated. Are you saying Yao Man wasn't a strategist?
Yao Man was heavy strategist. Much more so than Ty.
Oh, yeah. I think he might have messed that up. I don't know. Maybe he did. No. Yao Man's an insane strategist. That's why he got voted out third or fourth in fans versus favorites. Nobody wanted to go anywhere near that guy. Austin Harper, apparently Johnny Burtek decided to watch the NHL playoffs instead of Survivor. He missed out. Julia was looking really hot tonight when she came walking in. Let's see. Larry Miller, do you think Eliza from Vanuatu is a horrible player? She's overrated in my opinion. I think she's an awful tweeter, and I'm tired of listening to her.
I think she's a very overrated player. I think she is an attention-seeking person. And anytime there's those like live Rob has a podcast, like know-it-alls or anything that she does, she is unbearable. And sometimes I don't even watch the live ones anymore because Eliza gets on my nerves so much by constantly swearing and drawing attention to herself. So
I will say this: Phil and Will used to follow Eliza on Twitter. We don't anymore because I just couldn't take it.
Wow, good.
I couldn't take it, dude.
Good.
I could not take it. So she's so annoying. On to happier things. Larry Miller, 39 days, 5 people, 1 Mark the Chicken. Who will win? I think Marky has the best social and strategic game. Thoughts? I think right now it's either Michelle or Aubrey. If both of them get medevaced, it's probably Mark the Chicken because the other 3 just, man, it's going to be tough for them to make an argument at the final 2, whatever it ends up being.
Sure.
Yeah. Giovanni, Aubrey, Sydney, Joe, Michelle, and Ty as the final 5. Who could have predicted this? I certainly didn't. This is an insanely unlikely final 5, I think. Between Aubrey, Joe, and Ty alone, I think that's very unlikely. And then you throw in, like, how the hell does Sydney get there when none of the other Brawns are there? And Michelle. I mean, I think that this is a very, very unlikely final 5 as well.
Yeah, so I completely agree. And for a lot of seasons, that tends to be the case where it's like, how are these 5 people still here?
Yeah. And I think that's why this season's so interesting right now to people is because look who was left at final 6. It's a mosh of just random people. It's hodgepodge. It's crazy. Giovanni Oriana, who was better the first time, Jason or Russell Hantz? Jason, hands down. And then his next is who would win in the final 2, Jason or Russell Hantz? Wait, time out. Wait.
Who was better at what?
Hang on, I was reading the wrong thing. Wait, hang on. Let me just read both questions because I was reading the second one and answering the second one without meaning to. Who was better the first time, Jason or Russell Hantz? Next one, who would win in a final 2, Jason or Russell Hantz? In a final 2, I think Jason wipes the floor with Russell Hantz because he's more likable. Better.
Yeah, Russell and Samoa was like just the most fun players. We had not seen anything like that. I mean, he was polarizing, but he was also strategic. Love to hate. I mean, it was his story. No one has taken over a season like that and still haven't been good. I mean, Boston Rob took over a season, sucked. Kim Spalding took over a season, it sucked. The others were this prominent. I mean, Mike took over Worlds Apart, not fun. But Russell owned that season. It was still awesome. So I give Russell all the credit in being really just a one-of-a-kind character.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, that's a good point. I think Russell's game is underrated. I think Jason's game, too, is probably underrated here, though. I think he played a really good game. One of the better sixth place games you're going to see, I think. And I think that answers Giovanni's next question. So then moving on, do you think Jason was a good or bad player? Also, would he return? I think he was a good player. I think he would return. I just don't think yet. I don't know. Maybe they're saving him for something.
Maybe, yeah. If he really would fit the villain mold, if they have that in store.
Yeah. Do you think this is Giovanni again? Do you think Michelle should have gotten Sydney and Jason to vote Ty out or Joe out? It would have been 3-2-2 had that happened. We talked about this at the beginning a lot. Michelle and Sydney and Aubrey and Joe should have just voted Ty out. That should have just happened.
Yep, absolutely. Or Jason. I mean, we didn't talk about this. Ty comes to Jason and says, write Michelle's name down. If you don't trust Ty and you don't want to work with him, why don't you go up to Michelle and say that and say, look, and you instigate that. Don't let the alliance do it. So I guess that's, and you know what, he probably did, and they just didn't. The Ty as a possibility never really surfaced, and they wanted to kind of leave it up in the air with Michelle or Jason heading into the vote. So there's a good chance he did do that. We will find out tomorrow, but I hope he did, because if he is the player, if he is the player I think he is, he probably did that.
And then last Twitter comment from Giovanni: should Ty have teamed up with Jason, vote for Joe twice, and pull in either Sydney or Michelle? Would this have been a better move? Ty was just never going to work with Jason. It didn't seem like. Yeah, he went up and said vote for Michelle, but it just didn't seem like doing any strategizing with Jason. It seemed like he was hell-bent. And once somebody gets hell-bent, it's
Yeah, I agree. And it's actually a good lesson for just being a person. I think I kind of went out here in and out, but if you are so set on something that you're not listening to other people, then just try to do your best and see the other side and be like, wow, maybe this isn't the best idea. I don't know. I think I've actually learned that from Survivor. Now we have life lessons with Phil and Will. Just if you're just so adamant that you're not hearing anybody, it's like just take a step back and be like, maybe there's some good points on the other side, and not be so gung-ho.
No, it's true. Very true. Okay, let's jump here to YouTube. We got Zach Foote. Do you guys think Ty could win immunities to Final Tribal? He's not really against that threatening of people. I mean, Sydney won tonight, and she was moving so slow. You just needed one person to not drop, and she was lost by a lot. I mean, Michelle's won immunity. Aubrey is a little bit of a challenge threat. Joe's not going to win anything, so he definitely could.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I just think the problem with Ty, again, is like if he gets to the end and he wins, I don't get the winner vibe out of Ty. I think he's just like the fan favorite, big character vibe.
Yeah. OJ Bill Fogel. Do you think the lost brain cells Jeff was talking about is at Final 5? Ty plays as idol, but he takes out Joe and not somebody like Aubrey. And that would fit.
Yeah, it would. But there've already been so many things that fit that. The winner might fit that. Like if Michelle wins, or if even Aubrey wins, those might not be up to Jeff's standards of a winner. So I just think we have to wait and see, and then kind of reassess after.
Yeah. Jake Johnson looks like Ty is going to steal Phil's girlfriend away from him next week. Looks like Nick already did that anyway. And then Jake Johnson again. If you want my opinion, though, final really lame. It could be that Jeff lost brain cells. I don't think this is a lame final five at all, but I could see how Jeff thought it was.
Right. I can see that completely.
Maybe thinking Ty's the only big personality left in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Henry Alford, we are which players ever, and Ty and Joe. Joe can't spell immunity, and Ty says the stupidest things at Tribal. Still holding out for Ty to get voted out with an idol next week. That would be awesome.
It would be. I'd love to see it.
Really entertaining, that's for sure. Peter Rubenstein, F finals. Any tips for how to not feel like you're going to die from studying? Become a film student. That's my advice.
Yeah, or just do it, and then once it's over, it's done, and just do it. Cram.
Make sure you get your 8 hours. Don't lose sleep.
Sleep.
I never lost sleep.
Yeah, but you cram, and you get it done, and then you sleep. You don't need to sleep 8 hours a night. It's just that 8 hour average. So if you go to class and then get back and you go to sleep and nap for 4 hours, that's fine. Get your sleep, but they don't need to be 8 hours at a time. At least that's not how I at all did it. I would pull all-nighters and be delirious, handing in papers, and then go crash.
Didn't pull a single all-nighter in college.
Oh, I had about three or four where, yep, I'm not going to sleep. Or I'd wake up at 4 a.m. to start studying for an exam that is at 10 and just study for 6 straight hours. Done that
That's
too.
Fun.
It is fun. And honestly, it's not even because you're awake and now we're going on full life advice because if you're awake, everyone else is asleep, or you can concentrate, you have coffee waking you up, and it's like a mission. You're like, all right, well, the exam's in 10 hours. You have no choice, or 4 hours, 6 hours. You have no choice, and you just muscle through it. It really, really worked well for me, I think.
Want to hear another cool fun fact about Phil? While we're on this, never drank a full cup of coffee in my life.
Well, that's why you're so tired all the time. Jeez, get a grip, man. Join the club.
Pretty amped all the time. All right, last comment. Henry Alford. Preview talks about Ty trying to get back into Michelle's good graces. Very similar to Eric Reichenbach. Trying to get in with Natalie Bolton, Micronesia. We know how that ended up.
Ooh, yeah, I love it. I love the comparison. Ty gives
the only problem is Michelle doesn't have the power, I don't think, like Natalie did.
And Ty is gay. So
true. Well, isn't Natalie Bolton? Wasn't there a rumor that Natalie Bolton was lesbian?
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. I'm thinking if it's Eric being wooed and Eric doesn't know that, and Natalie is using that to flirt with him. That's what I'm saying.
Are you saying Eric was distracted by boobs?
A little bit. I mean, when you look at it, you have Parvati, Amanda, and Natalie Bolton, Sari. They're just all coming up to you and just getting in your ear left and right, telling you these things, spinning your head in circles. And if it were men, he might have been able to see the situation more clearly.
But do you remember that reward challenge with the topless lady just walking around in front of him, and he just couldn't handle himself? That's what he was very distracted by.
Yeah, he was. He was like, "Oh my god!"
Oh man, that poor guy. All right, that's it for comments. Obviously, I don't have the boot list scored. Come on, don't ever put faith in me.
Come on.
But Sunday is Mother's Day. Will, are you going home for Mother's Day?
I am not going home, but I'm going to my hometown. Going up to San Francisco. So gonna get to go to Giants game. Giants are playing the Rockies on Sunday. I'll be there with Mom and have dinner, fly back Sunday night. So probably won't be able to podcast Sunday. If there is time on Saturday, I don't really know what I'm doing during. I mean, when I go to San Francisco, I don't really consider it vacation just because it really isn't. So.
Well, we'll figure it out. I mean, either way, we've given our opinions on pretty much what's going to happen from here on. So,
let me give you my power.
We'll figure it out
right now. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, we'll figure it out. Thank you so much for listening. Not the most exciting episode, but still fun to talk to Phil, and appreciate you guys listening. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. That'd be great. Throw the video a like, and then get your comments in for Sunday and vote on those polls. It should be a little info box, right at the top. You just click on the info box, and the MVP and LVP polls will be there. At least if you're watching on Thursday. So.
What a bad time to cut out. Cut out right at